How was your day, man?
Not too bad. Work was work, and drive was fine. Got to listen to a few albums already today, including the one we're about to talk about.
Oh, nice, nice, yeah. Today was pretty good for me. Thanks for asking.
Of
Just kidding.
course.
That was a very passive aggressive backhand. um, but yeah, I had to get up early, go help my stepdad with the cataract surgery thing. Came home, did my thing for the day. Then watched Philip DeFranco. And have you been watching Phil DeFranco as of late?
I have not.
Yeah, so with the way that he's been covering news lately, I mean, the news has been what it is. Every single day, it's just a thing of panic and just like a another source of anxiety, lurking right behind your shoulder. But after watching Phil today and seeing like the bad news that he had to bring, I said to myself something. I said, self, if you don't like the world you're living in, take a look around. At least you got friends.
Philip, if you are somehow hearing this intro, we have made it. If not, I would not be surprised.
Welcome back, everybody, to the best music podcast on all sides of planet Earth. And the way that we defend that title is we go from Ukraine to Uganda, but we take the long way around. This podcast is called Hey, Listen to This. And it is hosted by two dashingly good-looking men who share the same middle name. I am the one. I am the only. I am the one who is just, felt the seasonal depression lifting the moment that he walked inside his house and saw Halloween was, mostly decorated inside the house, and realizing that hockey season was coming right around the corner. Ryan James Kearns.
And I am the one, the only, the I'm not so sure there can be seasonal depression when we live in a capitalist oligarchy, Matthew James Durzik. And for those of you wondering what it is we do here on Hey, Listen to This, it's right there in the title, Hey, Listen to This, where me and Ryan each week take an album of our choice and listen to it and analyze it track by track, note for note, lyric by lyric. We talk about the things we like, the things we don't like, the things we think could be improved upon, our favorite moments. We usually pick a top three, occasionally a bottom three, or some combination of the two. And last week, Ryan, it was your turn to pick. Where did we go?
So we ventured into the year of our Lord, 1991, and we checked out the second and final studio album by the band Slint, entitled Spiderland. And for me, like I said in the review, I was very curious about what that album had to bring to the table, because I never heard anything from that album up until the point of researching it for said review. And, walking away from the review, I mean, like I say for a lot of our reviews, I was incredibly thankful, grateful, happy, content, all of the positive, descriptors that you can throw at said feelings there about doing said review. And, fun fact, I actually bought that album, not on vinyl, but I added it to my Bandcamp collection. So for those of you who are like, ooh, I wonder what he has to say about that, and what Matthew has to say, you can go check out that review. It's just, in that podcasting platform of choice, just go back one.
Yeah, just go back one, and if you like that, go back several more, but we'll discuss that part later. But yeah, that album, Spiderland, was very much it was definitely a challenging album for me to listen to. Not that I hated it by any means, but it was definitely much different than what I'm used to. So I appreciate you bringing that one to the table as far as, just adding to both of our musical repertoires.
Well, yeah, no problem, man. And I mean, thank you for coming along for the ride with me. Like, it was fun going down Spiderland, and at the end of that review, you threw yourself a challenge to pick an album that we are going to review this week that you felt like for the past couple selections that came out of your camp, they were mid. So that being said, Matt, what album are you putting up for contention for the possibility of not being a mid album, so we can really dive into a really good album this week?
Well, for the first time this year, I'm choosing an album from 2025. It's a new Sabrina. No, I'm just kidding. I'm trying to get away from the mid. So this week, in all seriousness, we are heading back to the year of 1984, the prime years of MTV, the prime years of the 80s vibes, whether it be through music, art, movies, politics, the weather maybe. And that is the case definitely with this album, because we're talking about The Rain today, specifically Purple Rain by Prince and the Revolution from 1984. So, as Ryan mentioned, I'm picking this album because I'm trying to break my streak of back-to-back 7 out of 10s for both my last albums. And before we get into whether this one is going to enter that category, I guess we should ask the question, what is a Prince? And no, for those of you living in the UK listening to us, sorry, we're not talking about those princes. We're talking about our Prince, who was born Prince Rogers Nelson back in 1958 in the land called Minneapolis, Minnesota. Now, Prince started out just as, a kid living in Minneapolis and being around music all his life, when he decided he wanted to get into music professionally in his own. So his career started in the mid-1970s with a little bit of session work and a little bit of background stuff here and there, not releasing his first album until 1978's debut, For You, which got him a minor hit on the Hot 100 with the song Soft and Wet. Then moving on to his self-titled sophomore effort in 1979, which had his first top 40 hit with the song I Want to Be Your Lover. And so Prince pushed his way into the conscience of the times. And the conscience of the times of the late 70s was disco, a little bit of punk, a little bit of pop, edging towards more technological revolutions with the sound of new wave. You're talking about the Cars' first album, Christopher Cross's Sailing, just as a couple examples of albums that are really going in a more technological direction. And then Prince starts to pull a little far back from the pop spotlight and just decides, you know what, I don't necessarily want to be a pop star. I mean, I do, but if at first I want to be Prince. And so the next few albums sort of go in that direction, particularly Dirty Mind in 1980 and Controversy in 1981. Neither of which had any major hits, but refined Prince's musical repertoire of having just a solid sound and an unabashed lyrical viewpoint, because the 1980 album Dirty Mind is very sexual. Controversy is a little less so, but definitely no less crazy. And then Prince had his breakthrough the year after that, in 1982, with the album 1999. And this is where some of the songs that people are most familiar with start to pop up, particularly the title track and one of his most famous and honestly underrated songs, because I haven't heard it very much recently. I heard it at a car cruise a couple weeks ago, but that's it, in Little Red Corvette. So all of a sudden, Prince is becoming more of a household name. And by this time, in 1983, things are a lot different. MTV is introduced, and this fusoid of R&B and rock is starting to take shape. And it's taking shape in the form of, well, his rival of the times, or at least his rival in the history of rock and roll. Maybe not personally, but that's aside the point. And that's Michael Jackson. He had Thriller in 1982 as well, and that becomes one of, if not the best, music selling album of all time. Uh, and definitely had a bit more of a sheen on it that sounded like the 80s. But while all this is happening, Prince is working on his own stuff, as I had mentioned, to the point where by 1984 he had formed this band called The Revolution, and they recorded an album, which also counted as a soundtrack because, oh yeah, he decided he wanted to make movies too, and thus Purple Rain, the movie, and the soundtrack was begat in 1984, and that is where we are with this review. Now, before I talk about my personal experiences with Prince's music, Ryan, I will kick it over to you first, and you may describe what your background with Prince is.
Well, I knew Prince was a musician, so and he's a guy, and yeah, I know that. No, in all seriousness though, like for a lot, for a good bit of reviews that we've done, like I would say maybe as of late or just in general, like I knew the big I know Prince's like big songs like Kiss. Obviously, I know Purple Rain, When Doves Cry, like a couple of the tracks that we're going to be discussing here today. And then, I know 1999, Little Red Corvette, and, a handful of other, Prince tracks. In terms of, any other notable things about Prince and my relationship with him, I mean, I own the record that we are talking about today, on vinyl, because I got it at Rogers Flea Market. Several years ago, secondhand. So, I mean, it was a good record to pick up on vinyl. I mean, if you're gonna own a Prince record, it would be this record. I mean, I don't know. Maybe in the future I should give 1999 a listen just to expand my musical taste buds just a hair. But yeah, that's pretty much my relationship with Prince. How about you, Matt?
Pretty much in the same vein. I knew of his hits, like you mentioned, Little Red Corvette, 1999, When Doves Cry, Purple Rain. But I really had not listened to a full-on Prince album until I was thrifting myself. I think I got this one at, I want to say it was Barkins down in Beaver Falls. It was a secondhand sort of pawn shop type store. And they had a CD section, and this was one of the CDs that they had. And I was like, oh, Purple Rain. I'm familiar with a couple of these songs. And I had known Prince not just as this hit maker, but also as a critical tour de force, because I know Dirty Mind was among the Rolling Stone 500 greatest albums of all time. Same with a later effort of his, Sign of the Times, which is an album I'm sort of heavy in the back burner, because I've heard that one is just fantastic. But Purple Rain, it's a simple one to get into, and I bought it, and I was like, whoa, okay, all right. And after several repeated listens, I'm still saying that, but that's just the basic part of it. So yeah, I'm right there with you. I've known Prince as sort of this musician with big hits, critical darling, also kind of a occasional punchline, just because he had that period in the 90s where he decided to change his name to the artist formerly known as Prince. But we're not going to discuss that Prince today. That was a different Prince for a different time and a much different sound. But here we have Prince at his... Well, I think we can get into it. We can start dissecting what it is that is standing in the Purple Rain with this album. Ryan, if you are cool, I'll kick things off with Let's Go Crazy.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Let's gather together to go crazy and ride the elevator and talk to Doctor Gonna Feel All Right and all the other random references that I can throw into lyrics throughout this song here. But yeah, needless to say, let's go crazy, man.
Dearly beloved, it is time to start this review with Let's Go Crazy, and immediately that opening with the gospel organ, that twisted gospel organ, and Prince sermonizing about the afterworld and how things are much harder in the afterworld or much harder than it is here on Earth than it is in the afterworld, because here in this world you're on your own, and just that build from that sermonizing opening. You get the drums, you get the guitar, and then all of a sudden you get that first keyboard riff of the ba ba ba, and immediately Prince is defining, if not redefining, because he's been working on this for years, his version of what became known as the Minneapolis sound. Just this whirlwind blend of funk, R&B, rock, and pop. And it just comes off so magnificently right from Jump Street. And what makes this track work even more so than the buoyant music, which again, the Revolution should not be discredited for their efforts throughout this entire album. They sound amazing. Because even if you took away all the synth like fades of the and stuff, it would still sound amazing because the band is so locked into this groove. But on top of that, you get Prince talking about these lyrics about dealing with troubles in your personal life, dealing with troubles in your everyday work life, dealing with thoughts of the afterlife. And he's talking about these dark lyrics like, when we all die, what's it all for? And it's if Bob Dylan had a like drop D tune guitar and was strumming these, you would think this is one of the darkest folk songs ever recorded. But Prince is deciding, hey, we're gonna put this behind this like almost carnival like bounce of a track where it's just like you think you're on a roller coaster, and in a sense you are, but it's a dark roller coaster that goes nowhere. It just works so well. And by the way, I know Prince is known mostly as a singer, but yeah, he's a guitarist too, and the guitar on this track is quite good. Whether it's the solo following the second chorus, or the outro tour de force that would become just sort of this cherry on top of a crazy opener, where he's just shredding. And I first became aware of this solo when Public Enemy sampled it for their technically second, but more or less opening track off of 1990's Fear of a Black Planet, which is Brother's Gonna Work It Out, one of my favorites from them. They sampled part of that outro solo. And yeah, Prince just shreds on guitar. And again, you just get this overall feeling of rock, pop, funk, R&B, introspective lyrics mixed with buoyant instrumental. It just is a tour de force, and it's one of those songs I think more or less defines Prince more than any other because of its blend of philosophies, its blend of darkness with optimism or perhaps cynicism. All of which to say, for the second week in a row, we start this album with my favorite track off of it with Let's Go Crazy. And full disclosure, I have a top 3 and a bottom 1.
Oh man, well, this is awkward here. First of all, let me make the note here that this is your favorite song, because I like to keep
I'm glad you're keeping tab of this. What's the awkward part? I'm curious as to where you're going with this.
So the awkward part, and also feel free to edit like this part out until right now. So yeah, the awkward part is the fact that I too, like you, have a top 3 and a bottom 1. And yeah, so I found that to be very, very interesting. And like, I feel like, I don't know, we've been in sync with a lot of the reviews here over the past several weeks, where like in terms of like the number bottom and top tracks. But I digress. My feelings about Let's Go Crazy though. So fun fact about this track: my first proper introduction to this track was not through Prince. It was through a cover that the band Incubus did for their greatest hits album, Monuments and Melodies. And, it was a pretty good cover. And for those of you who are listening out there and know me personally, Matt is included in this because he was, the best man at my wedding. This song here was used to introduce the bridal party at my wedding during the reception. So, needless to say, I have a lot of history with this track here for multiple reasons, and yeah, it's a great track. I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it. Like I'm not even gonna bury the lead here. So a lot of the things that you mentioned already, I agree with 1,000%. The intro is fantastic, and one thing I noticed, and that I really didn't notate, but I want to bring up in my talking about this track here is I like the way it was recorded, in that the use of the reverb effect on the church, of the use of the reverb effect on the vocals, it creates such a nice sound, and then even fast forwarding throughout the rest of the track, at the very end after the guitar solo, you hear that pop that occurs with the vocals and everything like that, and that is pure vocal production. So shout out to the producer on this record here, and let's take a look on that. Do you know who produced the record?
Not off the top of my head, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was Prince himself.
No, yeah, producer Prince and the Revolution. So yeah, you are correct, sir. So, anyway, so yeah, fantastic production. At moments it could kind of come across as a little bit dry, but it works. It works well. Like this is a great song. And one thing that I also notice about the song, like Prince's vocals, like here he's not really showing off his vocal chops nearly as much as as what you would consider to be compared to his quote unquote rival like Michael Jackson. But what I love about his vocals here is he rides the energy of the song to a T, and it works fantastic. And especially at that end, that pop that I described, you can really feel he's just really releasing the emotion properly. So I really did appreciate that. The other thing that I really did like about this track, you kind of alluded to it a little bit. At the beginning, you get that establishment of that groove. The groove in itself, I love how it almost seems like a calm response, like the synth is laying down the beat and the backing band is finishing the sentence. I love that stuff. The interplay between the Revolution there is, chef's kiss. I agree with you. The guitar solo is fantastic, and also within the guitar solo section, the splashes of synth that pop throughout that section are really, really good. I do like it quite a bit. And yeah, the only other thing I gotta mention about this song before revealing where it does land in my top 3, spoiler alert, is the fact that the lyrics are really, really good. One line kind of caught me off guard a little bit, the purple banana line. And, thanks to my research on Genius.com, I kind of just, took it as Prince being hey, just try to enjoy life, try to find that rare thing. And because purple bananas, ladies and gentlemen, they do exist. The reason why we see yellow bananas mostly in the wild is those don't spoil as easy as compared to purple bananas. So, fun fact, if you didn't know that today, now you know. So, needless to say, though, I do love this track quite a bit. However, it is not my top track off the whole album. It is, however, though, my second favorite track off the whole record. So, Let's Go Crazy is number 2 for me.
Completely respectable, and I'm going to be dead honest. Up until maybe not even 3 hours ago, maybe 2 hours ago, I would have had this at number 2 myself, with my number 1 track being where it's at. But I had to make a switch just at the last second to put this rightfully at number 1. And also, I did not know that the purple bananas existed. So yeah, I guess they are rare, and I learned a banana fact today.
Oh, man. Banana facts are fun, man. I wouldn't know that. That's literally the only 2 banana facts that I know. Well, I know the whole monkey eating thing, but I digress. Today is not, hey, let's talk about bananas. Today is, hey, let's talk about Prince. And let's, if it's okay with you, I'm ready to, shift on over to the next track. Take me with you.
Onward, my friend, onward.
So, this track here is a lot of fun, man. Like the groove that's established right off the start with the drums and the synths, like it's so solid. And one thing that I really did like about this track a lot is, like, I may have not given Prince a whole lot of praise with the previous track in terms of his vocal delivery with Let's Go Crazy, but here he's doing a really good job. I'm really liking what he's bringing to the table, and the duet that he's executing here with Apollonia Cotero is, it's a really sweet ballad. Like, I really am believing what they're bringing to the table, and it's just a really sweet love song. And fun fact about Apollonia Cotero, she also plays the love interest in the said movie that this is a soundtrack for. So that was a fun fact for me to learn. Sidebar: have you ever seen the movie that this soundtracks?
I have not, but the more I listen to this album, the more curious I am as to what this movie is about. I mean, it's obviously about Prince being Prince, but that's as far as I know. But yeah, I have not seen this movie.
I was gonna maybe put it on for you guys when you were over last, but it's not on any streaming service. So I'm like, I don't want to rent it if I'm not going to be pleased with it. So maybe one day we'll end up watching the movie, you and I, or just maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll never watch it. I digress. We have the music to enjoy though. So diving further into Take Me With You, like the other random touches of instrumentation that I really did like here is the string licks that occur at the ends of phrases. Like, they are acting like almost like either guide points or stingers. Like, they are a great touch. I thought those were executed pretty effectively. And also, you know me, I'm always a sucker whenever vocals and instrumentation line up within a song. It's one of the Ryan Kearns' musical kinks that are out there, and we find that here, especially in the chorus. Like, it really does create a pleasing effect to the ear, especially with how sweet this song sounds. And also other bits of instrumentation that I do like here. We get some finger cymbals here. That's a great touch, and a drum solo in this economy. Like, the drum solo was pretty cool. So yeah, other than that, I mean, I did allude to the fact that this is a love song, and the lyrics are really solid, like driving home the feeling of just wanting to be with somebody. And also, one lyric I did want to highlight here is, "It's in your eyes. What can I say? They turn me on." And this whole turning on thing that Prince is describing here, I don't think it's like a sexual kind of turn on. It's more of like, I'm attracted to who you are as a person, and I just want to be with you. And what a better sentiment to put in a love song than that. So yeah, as much praise as I'm gonna give Take Me With You, it did not land in a top spot for me though.
Which is totally fair. It did not land a top spot for me either, but I agree. This is a fun track, and I'm glad that it became a hit because it deserves to be. I think it was the final single released from this album to hit the top 40. But this is a solid pop song by Prince. This is less the Minneapolis sound that he established with Let's Go Crazy, and more so a straightforward pop song, complete with, like you say, the sort of classy strings that end each phrase. Apollonia does a great job keeping up with Prince in this duet. I think they work very well in tandem. I do like the marching of the Take Me With You that you mentioned as well. And it really just works as a solid... I do like how the intro and the part it repeats at the end with the drum solo and the finger cymbals, it definitely just... It's interesting how they switch the phrase around, because at the very start you get the finger cymbals, then the drum solo, and then when it repeats itself, it starts with the drums first, then goes the finger cymbals. I did like that little twist that was in there. But aside from that, the lyrics, like you say, pretty much tell you what you need to know. The title of the song tells you what you need to know. It's like, hey, baby, I don't matter where we go or what we do, just take me with you. It's a very simplistic pop song. I was reminded more than once of another song that Prince would write, and I think he recorded it, but he didn't release it as a single. He would allow the Bangles to do that with Manic Monday. That song came to my mind a lot while listening to this one, so if you like Manic Monday, you'll like this one quite a bit, and if you like Prince, you'll like this one quite a bit, but it is not my top 3 either, but a very, very, very solid follow-up to the opener.
I'll have to check out Manic Monday because, like, I'm gonna be honest with you. Take Me With You could have easily landed in a top 3 spot for me. I did enjoy it that much, but if it wasn't for the fact of my third favorite song grinding so effectively, I would probably have put it in a top 3 spot. And I think we're pretty much in agreement. I think I might be just a hair higher than you, but I mean, this track is still an effectively great track, and I would almost say, would you say it lands in a deep cut territory off this album?
Considering the prowess of the other big hits off of here, I would say it's up there. I mean, this is not a song you hear on pop radio much anymore, or even like classic hits radio. So I would qualify this as a deep cut. This is definitely one that a lot of people getting into Prince are probably going to be surprised by, and pleasantly so.
Well, with that being said, are you ready to, move on over to the next track here, which is entitled "The Beautiful Ones"? The beautiful people, the beautiful people.
Not quite that. It's not quite that. That would be way ahead of its time. No. The Beautiful Ones sees things slowing down even more because Let's Go Crazy was very up tempo. Take Me With You was very medium, just stroll tempo. The Beautiful One slows things down. This is a soulful rocker ballad. And realistically, it doesn't do a whole lot in the lyrical department. At least not on surface level. Because basically this is just a song about Prince saying, baby, why are we like this? How did we end up this way? And on surface level, this is definitely a more of an album cut type of song. I didn't hate it by any means, because Prince does do a very good job of establishing this sort of soulful plea, almost like a James Brown-esque type of plea throughout the song, until the end, which we'll get to in a bit. But the band sounds good. It has that nice sparse opening with just the drums, a little bit of bass, a little bit of synth, and then Prince comes in with his guitar and it builds. And that's what the track does. That spoken word part in the middle, though, did caught me a little off guard. Not in a bad way, but I was just like, oh, we're doing this now. Because he just sort of goes into this sort of tribulation about, the beautiful ones and who they are. And you're just wondering, did Prince just fall asleep on a Monday afternoon and watch soap operas and was like, you know what? I'm going to write a song. Let's go. Because that's kind of how this feels, like almost soap opera-ish and very lugubrious in its execution. And the only real nitpick I have with the song, not enough to put it at a bottom spot, but towards the end, it does feel like either through production or through effort, Prince tends to oversing just a hair. Like those last little gasps of, baby, baby, baby. Like, the fact that he built up to that sort of saves that from being a major annoyance. But the first couple times I was like, okay, somebody didn't do their job at the board right, because this is just it isn't just like pushing up against the speakers. It is actively trying to cut a hole through them. So yeah, it was a hard thing to get used to the first couple times. But the more I listened, I was like, you know what? No, the track naturally and organically got to that point where Prince could just, go crazy vocally, and his voice is running the gambit here from that soulful crooning opening to this just wailing at the end. So I did appreciate that for what it was. To me, again, this is more so an album track than anything else, but it is not my bottom track because, again, the performances on here are solid if the mixing is a little suspect at certain points.
So, do you think Justin Bieber, as a wee lad, listened to this song here and heard the lyrics "baby, baby, baby" and said, "Hey, wait, I got an idea"?
I would hope not, only because if this was his inspiration for making the song Baby, that would be, as the great Tom the Shadows once said, be like if you tried to make scrambled eggs and somehow contracted syphilis. You failed so hard that you forgot what you were supposed to do and somehow did something even worse. So no, I don't hope that Justin Bieber drew inspiration from the Beautiful Ones, because if that is the case, woof, swing and a miss, strike three, you're out, ball game over.
Oh man. So, yeah, the beautiful ones here for me. I am gonna maybe. I'm gonna respectfully disagree with you. Like at the very end, where Prince was like over singing that "baby, baby, baby" line, like I feel like that's one of the modes of Prince that I do enjoy the most because it kind of channels like a Little Richard kind of aspect where it's like just really becoming overcome with emotion and just really just like starting to scream, and it lands pretty effectively on my ears, and especially with how it's produced towards the end. And I do like how the track, and this is where I'm gonna agree with you, how the track like progresses and it like builds up. Like I thought that was a nice touch. I will say that the track does easily get better once like you start to feel like the intensification of emotion within the track. So like I do appreciate that. And also like overall the vocal performance from Prince, it's pretty solid. Like more of a fan of his performance as the track like carries on. And also like other couple other things I want to talk about here is lyrically this song here is about unrequited love, and the lyrics are fine for the most part in my opinion, but this line here that I'm going to highlight was a bit off considering the subject matter of the song, which is unrequited love. And the lyric that I'm going to highlight here is, "If we got married, would that be cool?" Like maybe a little stalkerish kind of like peeping tom vibes there kind of style there, but I might be reading into it. Maybe Prince is just like I'm just trying to express my love for like Susan Melvoin, who actually that's who this song was written for in an attempt to woo her away from her boyfriend. And also, this situation was mirrored and recreated for the performance of the Beautiful Ones in said movie, in like the movie Purple Rain, that we've alluded to a couple times throughout this review so far. But yeah, so yeah, all that being said, why is this my bottom track off the whole album?
Oh, that you bit of a bait and switch there. Why is this your bottom track?
So I struggled with going back and forth. Am I gonna put this as a bottom track? Or am I not gonna put this as a bottom track? I'm committing to the bit, especially since I've already labeled it as a bottom track. And the problem that I had with this track here is the instrumentation starting off. It's fine. It's just a little dry for my taste. Like there's not much going on. Like for me, when it comes to like music, and this is something I thought about earlier today, if the instrumentation is not carrying the weight or like doing enough to catch my attention and really have my attention really just sink into the track, then the lyrics and the singing like have to carry the load. And in the opening, I did say Prince's like performance starting out was fine, but like it's not captivating. He's just saying baby, baby, beep, like it wasn't really catching my attention. So, and like all you hear in the instrumentation starting out is ta 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 ta, and then you get like to be fully transparent though, you get the warby effects in the background at some points, but and like you also get the drums that are highly produced. But another thing that I want to highlight though is like I only caught like this one part when I did my headphone listen of the track, and there's like a little synth line that is piercing through in the third verse, and I did find that to be a bit annoying. So yeah, overall this track here is a bit of a mixed bag for me. But if I had to be true to myself, I would eat like, you know, if I could skip over this song here and like, you know, shuffle on over to the next track here, Computer Blue, on my next listen through of the record, yeah, I would do that. So yeah, The Beautiful Ones, unfortunately, it did land in the bottom spot for me.
That's totally fair. Again, it is not a standout track on this album for me either. Again, it was probably leaning towards bottom track territory until my third and final listen, where I was like, yeah, you know what, this track's all right. It's not great. It's you know, just a hair above or right on the ledge of good. It's all right. And again, to go back to your point about Prince doing his yelling thing at the end, I don't mind that either. I don't mind Prince going crazy with the vocals. I just wish it were mixed better. Like, it just sounds like it's way too up again. Like, if they had used the reverb that they had used on Let's Go Crazy, it probably would have been a little higher on my radar. Probably not top 3, but definitely a song I'd be like, you know what? All right, Prince, I see you. But here, it just kind of grated a little bit. And I did not pick up on that synth line that you were talking about in the third verse, because I did not listen to this album with headphones. I have it in many a moon. So maybe I'll go back and try to find that. But yeah, I can understand why this one did not do it for you.
So, yeah, unfortunately, but you know, let's find out if the next track here will pick up the momentum of the record for me, and the next track is Computer Blue, and I'm gonna go ahead and kick things off with the dissection here. And this track here, overall, I'm not even gonna do a lyrical dissection, because like this track here is primarily a track meant to highlight the abilities and, like, you know, just the fact that the revolution and can have a lot of fun, and, like, you know, just it's essentially an instrumental track with like just a little bit of vocals starting out, and the vocals that do start out are pretty fun. Like, I was a fan of the spoken word intro, like the dialogue between Lisa Coleman and Wendy Melvoin, where you get them basically asking, like, Lisa asking Wendy, is the water warm enough? And basically announcing, yeah, it's warm enough. And then, shall we begin? Yeah. The beat that is established with the instrumentation is just so good. Just the like, I did like that motif that they rode through the whole track, and the random synth hits that you get here in the track are just so good. And I love how nasty everything sounds. Like, this is definitely a funk track through and through. Huge fan of that. And like the line that you hear after Prince sings "Computer Blue" it echoes that motif that I was talking about. Like, it is really good. And just the after that, like I alluded to, the instrumentals dominated a good portion of the song. The guitar solo kicking in, you know, it's just so big and so good. I'm a huge fan of that. And then after that, like, the track kind of crashes out for a second, which I thought was a nice touch, and then it kicks back in. And the guitar is doing another decent solo there. And, like, one thing that I noticed with this track here, and like how Prince is utilizing the guitar, like you don't need vocals at all here. Like this track stands on its own, and I love the ability of like Prince utilize the guitar as like a substitute for a vocal instrument. Like I thought that was a nice touch, and the motif that I alluded to earlier in my dissection, it occurs again. It comes back right at the end, and yeah. Other than that, like, not much else I have to say about this track. Just a little tidbit here. So, Take Me With You was added to the album at the last minute. So, Prince had to dramatically edit this song here, Computer Blue, to make room for it. Apparently, there was an entire keyboard solo that was removed, and, like, other instrumental passages were, messed with. And every verse after the first was cut. So, like, apparently there was more vocals here. So, yeah, even though this is a very lean version of what was originally drafted in the studio, it still packs a pretty good punch for me. But, yeah, needless to say, pretty good track. Did not land in the top spot for me.
So, I agree with you that the opening was a very interesting thing to hear, just because you get this intriguing dialogue between either two women or two computer-generated female voices talking about if the water's warm. And then you get Prince sort of freaking out a little bit about, what the hell is going on until he finds someone that is true, Computer Blue. And I will admit that the beat that you mentioned, that sort of dark funk groove that's going on, it did remind me a little bit almost of Beat It in a sense. It definitely had that sort of on the floor type of groove that sort of fused, again, R&B with rock. So, again, at the start you have, the intro, then you follow it up with the lyrics by Prince, and then, like you say, Ryan, it does go into that instrumental where the guitar is primary focus, and then it goes from that until the end of the track. So why is this my least favorite track on the album?
I see what you did there, man. I see what you did there. You stole my thunder, and it's fine. It's fine. I mean, I think I stole that trick out of your bag, so it's totally fair. I'm interested to hear why this is your.
Well, I will say, hearing what you said at the end of your dissertation, very much makes this track's existence as it is in the original album even sadder. Because if this track had decided one way or the other to be either an instrumental or a vocal track, I probably don't put it as a bottom track at all. Like, because that was the part that just left me confused and frustrated, is you have this sort of intriguing intro between two female voices, and then you have Prince sort of doing this sort of manic what's going on thing. Although, if I'm being completely honest, I don't think his vocal performance on this track is that good. It's either mixed wrong or buried in the mix, or I just can't hear him that well, and he's just not singing up to it. Whatever the case is, I just thought it was kind of meh. And then after this thought of, these two computers are talking to each other, and I don't know what's going on, it goes nowhere. It goes absolutely nowhere. It just goes into an instrumental. And the instrumental's fine. The guitar sounds fine. It does kind of get a little artsy towards the end, which I didn't mind, but I also was like, okay, well, where exactly is this going? And then the last time you hear Prince's vocals was that yeah at the end, which, again, does the same problem I had on the Beautiful Ones, where it just sounds way too up against the mix. But at least with the Beautiful Ones, it was building up to that. Here it just comes out of nowhere and just sounds even more irritating. And especially after all the nothing that came before it. I'm curious now as to hear the full version of this, because I feel like it would be a more fully realized song. Probably not a top track for me, but a more fully realized thing compared to what this is. Because this feels like it's 6 of none and half a dozen of the other. Like, it's just, it's too confusing of a track for me to get away with what it's trying to do. And yeah, it doesn't sound horrible, but it's getting the bottom spot for me.
So, yeah, I can agree with that that assessment there. Like if I really had to um, take a step back and think about it, like yeah, the track kind of really goes nowhere, and there's not a through line with everything, and like the vocals at the end, like with Prince being like yeah, it just seems like it's just like a random touch like out of nowhere, and it is not mixed 100%. So, fun fact though, I will say though, as you were like wanting there to be an ability to hear like the full version, apparently the full version does exist like on like a deluxe edition of this album. So and it's it's labeled as computer blue in parentheses hallway speech. So I could be wrong. I'm just looking it up on Genius.com right now. I mean, it has more lyrics to it, so I mean that makes me believe it's the full version. I digress, though. So yeah, I can agree with you, and I think that's maybe what held me back ultimately from giving this track, even like a top 4 spot, because like I said, Take Me With You could have easily been a top 3, but once we get to the song that grinds, I'll make my case for that song.
Well, believe it or not, we have arrived at the station for that train to arrive in the grinding halls of the next track, which is Darling Nikki. And if you are so inclined, Ryan, I will go ahead and kick things off with this track that finishes off side A of the record. And for those who don't know their musical history, this track here, Darling Nikki, is the crown jewel of what was once established as the Filthy 15. Now, what is the Filthy 15? It was 15 tracks selected by a group that was created called the Parents Music Resource Council, the PMRC, that were singled out for being just too vulgar and offensive to not only be on airways, but just be in the general existence of the consciousness. So this track here was singled out as probably the filthiest and the dirtiest among them. And the reason for that is that it opens up lyrically with Prince talking about how he met this woman in a hotel lobby, this sex fiend who was sitting there pleasuring herself with a magazine. And this just set parents crazy. Like, how dare rock music and pop music go to such extreme lengths to, promote the idea of sexuality on record. And all I'm thinking is, okay, what hotel is actually going to allow anyone, let alone this Darling Nikki, to do that without saying, hey, go back to your room or take it outside? That's the only question I have. But that being aside, this track pretty much is exactly what you think it's about. It's about the protagonist, whether it's Prince or someone else that Prince is talking about, but we can assume it's Prince, engaging in acts with a prostitute, in this case, the Darling Nikki. And lyrically, you pretty much know what to expect. I thought the lyrics were pretty good about how it describes what happens, and then the aftermath of her saying, hey, call me if you need a good time, and him realizing, hey, I do. I miss you. Let's do this again. And at first, the first time I listened to this song after a long while, I wasn't feeling it just because I thought the mix was wrong, but after repeated listens, I was like, no, this mix is actually really good, because whatever instrumentation is going on in the back with this sort of rough reggae Jamaican dub type of thing where you get just this myriad of percussion just buried in the mix with just a little bit of splashes of auxiliary percussion up top. I thought that worked really, really well. And the way it just pops off on the chorus, or lack thereof, because when Prince says she starts to grind, that's where the instrumentals kicked in and sort of play as the chorus, quote unquote. So yeah, I thought that was a really nice touch too. And I really dug the ending of this track where you have just sort of this monumental, like, I'm wondering if this was like overdubbed with an auxiliary bass drum, or if someone just decided to get a double pedal and just go to town on the drum set. Whatever the case, I really like the bass drum work at the end of this track where it's just going. I really like that. Not so much the ending where you get the backwards vocals and Prince just trying to art things up a little bit. Like, I didn't hate that, but I also didn't think it was necessary. But yeah, Darling Nikki certainly has earned its place in musical history as a expose on what parents want your kids to listen to, etc., etc. Do I think it's that dirty? I mean, come on. It's 2025. It's 41 years later. It has been surpassed by many a successor. But it is rather, dry and cut for what it is as far as content. And also, it is not my top three. It's a good song. It goes to good song bucket, not my top three. So explain, Ryan, why it's in yours.
So one question that I have to ask you before I dive into my my feelings about Darling Nikki. Do you think Sabrina Carpenter heard Darling Nikki as a child and was just like, one day?
That makes a little bit more sense. I don't necessarily think that's the case, but I wouldn't put it past her.
So, yeah, it was another amusing thought that I just had. So yeah, Darling Nikki, just the reasons why, the reasons why this is my third favorite track off the whole album. I'm not even gonna bury the lead here. It's for the fact that it's just so playful, in the verses, and then in the jam section, the quote unquote chorus that you alluded to, it grinds so well, and it just at this risk of sounding crass while talking about Darling Nikki here, this song fucks.
Quite literally. Quite literally.
But yeah, just the playful instrumentation in the verses that I alluded to is I do like the openness of it with Prince just saying lines, and it's just it's this back and forth and feel, and then admittedly you do get the occasional random touch of guitar coming in throughout those verses. Yeah, that I did like that, and I did like how the payoff that occurs once the instrumentation does come crashing in. I thought that was really nice. Prince's vocals are really good here. It's one of my I don't want to say a favorite performance of mine, because it's very much Prince in his pocket where he's really just feeling a song, and you can really feel that here. Especially again within the couple different sections that you find here, in the verses where he's just singing, it's just oh, he's just looking at this woman and he's really just kind of wanting to have a good time, and then whenever he's having a good time, quote unquote, he's yelling and screaming and everything like that. So yeah, that's an excellent touch. The backwards recorded vocals that you talked about. For those of you who aren't official with the official term, it's called backmasking, and it was a studio trick that was a very, I don't want to say very much of its time, but it was utilized around this time. The Beatles utilized it. I think specifically within the White Album, if I'm not mistaken, and a couple other tracks in their catalog. And I thought the backmasking was a fun touch. And for the it's funny that this track has its history with making parents angry, because the backmasking, if you actually look up the actual what the backmasking vocal sections are, what it's trying to get across, it's trying to highlight religious values and everything like that. For that, it's almost kind of a backhanded thing at the time, because a lot of parents back in like the early 70s, they would like rewind like Black Sabbath records and be like, "Oh no, this is saying Hail Satan" or something like this, some sort of garbage like that. So I credit Prince with that. Admittedly, though, the outro, like, I could maybe have done without it, though, because it didn't land 100% of my ears. I think just my nerdy side appreciated it. But the song still rules. Not going to really touch into, like, the background of the track, because, like, you did an excellent job with that, my friend. But, yeah, this song just rules. And I think my first introduction to this track here, properly, was through a Foo Fighters cover of said track. Anyways, yeah, needless to say, Darling Nikki song entirely rolls. I love several aspects of it, and it definitely shows Prince's range here. So yeah, it's my third favorite track.
And much respect to that, because it is a good track, and it's a shame in a sense that the controversy of it seemingly has overshadowed it. Because I think anytime you hear about the song, you just think, oh, controversy, oh. But I think what it does is add another palette to the different types of songs we've been hearing on this album. Like we heard, the crazy jovial rock of Let's Go Crazy, the straightforward pop of Take Me With You, the soulful, slow, the beautiful ones, and then you get here where it's more like a reggae or a southern type of groove, and it just works so well. And I appreciate the fact you're a little higher on this song than me. And it's not that this is a bad song. This would probably land either like 4 or 5, depending on the day. But it's a solid track that belongs in the good song bucket for me.
Catch Me on a Different Day, Take Me With You, could probably overtake this song here. But yeah, it definitely does deserve its accolades, its praise. And again, like you said, it's the year of our Lord 2025, and there's many other songs that easily crush this song in terms of like being inappropriate, but haven't been like given as much flack as this song was given back in the day. That being said, before we kick it over to finding out what happens when doves cry, and like get into the back half of this record and experience Purple Rain properly, Matthew.
Yes, Ryan.
I have a pregunta for you.
And what is that pregunta?
If the dear listener out there is, checking us out and really just enjoying what we're bringing to the table, and, just want to help, show some love, some support for what you and I do on a weekend and a week out basis, what are just some ways that they can show us some love, man, and help us keep on keeping on?
The biggest way they can help us keep on keeping on is to spread the word. And the way to spread the word is to first hear the word. And the way to hear the word, or words as they are, or opinions, whatever you want to call them, is by listening to our episodes. You can do so by going to your favorite podcasting platform of choice, whether it be Pocket Cast, whether it be Apple Music, Spotify, any of those, plus several others. Also, we have a YouTube page, so if you want to add this to your playlist on your morning commute, or your evening commute, or your end of the night nowhere commute, you are free to do that as well. And wherever you are, whether it's listening on YouTube or listening elsewhere, feel free to please the algorithmic gods by upvoting or liking or commenting on our pieces. Because again, like Ryan has said before, we've done so many different. I mean, we're talking about Prince today. We talked about Slint last week. We've talked about country. We've talked about rap. We've talked about rock. We've talked about jazz. We've talked about pretty much everything. So there's something out there for you. The only thing we really haven't done is classical yet, and that could be a challenge for another day. But we'll cross that bridge if we ever get to it. The point being that check out our episodes on any platform, and if you like what you hear, share with a friend, whether you text them or Put it on your socials. We are on social media as well. We are on Blue Sky. We are on Facebook. We are on Threads. We are on Instagram. And our username for all of that is ttheylisten. ttheylisten is our username. And speaking of ttheylisten, if you want to reach out to us directly, but you do not know us directly or indirectly for that matter, the way to reach out to us is through our email. That is ttheylisten@gmail.com. That is ttheylisten@gmail.com. And again, if you like what you hear, share with a friend, tell us what we need to do. Or if you have any future episode suggestions, you can use our email for that as well. And to those who have done so far, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Again, me and Ryan are just two guys who like to talk about music here on this show, and we love doing what we do, and we thank you for joining us along this ride, which is rapidly approaching a milestone, believe it or not.
Yeah, before you know it, man, we're going to be hitting our 100th review, and I have a fun review selection cooked up for us, and I let you know, well, I didn't give any hints, but you said you have a feeling what one of those albums was going to be, so.
I have a good feeling about what one of those albums could be, and if we somehow don't talk about it again, I will be laughing very hard. But with that being said, again, thank you to everyone for your support so far for us doing these episodes. And we shall continue to do these episodes as long as you keep listening to this here on Hey Listen to This. And speaking of continuing reviews, I say we can continue this one, Ryan. We are on the back half of Purple Rain with track 6 of 9, When Doves Cry, the big one. Floor is yours.
I mean, I want to consider this the big one. I mean, there's another big one later on in the record, but no, it's not Fight O'Clock, man. Like, let's be real. We're not fighting depending on the popularity of tracks here.
True.
So yeah, When Doves Cry. This song is pretty cool. I do like it, like, quite a bit. There's a lot of stuff here that my brain can gravitate towards and my attention really does like. Like, coming right out of the gate, that guitar solo, kicking everything off was a really great touch. It really does highlight Prince's ability to be like a really good guitarist. I know, like, he is highlighted as one of the best guitarists ever. Just, I don't like. It's weird for me to say, like, he's highlighted as one of the best guitarists ever, but it's not talked about enough how good he is at guitar. Because I think he just is more known for building up songs and creating, like, really good songs. So be a really good discussion one day, like pitting him against like a Jimi Hendrix in terms of like guitar ability. But I digress. That's a future episode idea. We could put that in the draft folder that we don't have, but mentally we have. Moving back into When Doves Cry though. So yeah, after that guitar solo occurs and it like sets everybody up for being in the mood for the track then shifts into the main groove, and the main groove is pretty good. I do like the fun, playful nature of it. Like the drums for the most part are doing a solid job carrying the beat for the verses. I thought that was a really effective performance from the drummer there. And like, you know, in the chorus, one thing I did like is the little sprinkles of keys that you hear in the chorus, like da 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 da. Like, I thought that was a nice touch. And also another moment that I did like is a little lick that you hear in during the bridge with the keys. Like, it's a pretty nice touch. It's actually, like, you know, I like now that I'm thinking about it, it's actually heard throughout the track. I thought that was pretty cool. Overall, the track flow works so well, and like, it's a really well written song, and I just love how Prince sounds here vocally, and how he layered his vocals in spots throughout the track. I thought that was really good studio production on his part. I actually had to look up if there was any background vocals here, if it was just Prince, like, layering his vocals over and over, and like from what I found, it was Prince layering his vocals, and I was a fan of that. And like the ending jam session here is pretty fun. Nothing too flashy, but you can tell the band's having a lot of fun, and Prince is having fun too. And lyrically, like the song, it's interesting because it seems like it's a like Prince is trying to balance like this concept of having like a heated love song with lyrics like a dig if you picture dig if you will the picture of you and I engaged in a kiss, the sweat of your body covers me, can you, my darling, picture this? And like later on in the track, like you get talks, so, like specifically with like in the chorus and like throughout the rest of the track here about like him discussing like, oh, like parental, like maybe you're just like my mother, maybe I'm just like my father, and like why are we like this? Why do lovers cry? Like, why do lovers fight? And this is what happens when doves cry. And that phrase by itself, when doves cry, I kind of did a little bit of digging into it because, like, I did like the imagery of that. Not that I hate doves. I am a peaceful kind of person. But the whole thing about, like, when doves cry, apparently Prince saw himself as, like, a very peaceful creature, and he identified with doves and like just the imaging, the imagery and the metaphorical implications of doves crying, like something that's supposed to be so peaceful is experiencing pain. That's what we're getting there, and Prince is comparing him and his lover to doves, and how they're supposed to be peaceful creatures, but they're like fighting and like they just can't, like just something's not like meshing well here. Yeah, like it's a cool song. I do understand why it got like as much popularity as it has gotten over the years. As much as I kind of did like backhand your the big one here, but yeah. And also fun fact here. So let me take a look here. Yeah, the song has no bass. And that was because during the production at the time, the person in the studio was just like, man, I really, if I had my way with this song here, I would just, have the song without any bass because I feel like it sounds better. And yeah, it worked. So, yeah. So, When Doves Cry, it is not a top song for me. It's not my favorite song off the whole album, but I do respect it nonetheless.
I will say I'm a little surprised this isn't in your top three at all. Not that I disagree with you per se, but just because the more I heard this song, the more I felt like it was Ryan coded. Because you talk about him taking out the bass. To me, what that symbolizes, especially on an R&B track like this, is that he does have the keyboards in there doing a great job, like you mentioned, and the drummer is doing a good job, but you really don't get a whole lot of guitar, so you just get these little synth notes and the drums. So basically, Prince is gambling on his vocals and his message through his lyrics being enough to carry the song. And for the most part, it is, because it does have that introspective feel to it, even though I'm not necessarily sure, like you said, like he's talking about, why peace doesn't happen when it should, whether it's in a relationship or a parent's relationship or just in general. And again, his lyrics come across very well here. He definitely sounds menacing. He sounds confused. He sounds frustrated, and it comes across on record very, very well. And I'm not going to dive too much further than you did. You did a great job of describing the lyrics on this track, not to mention the instrumentals as well. My only major disagreement with you is that I do not like the ending as much. Like, I didn't hate the ending after the part where the chorus ends. I thought it was just kind of, it kept the groove nicely, but it fell a little past its welcome after about maybe the 3-4 minute mark. So I understand why it was cut down as a single and why most people haven't heard the last 2 minutes of the song. You're not really missing a whole lot. It's just the groove with various vocal noodlings over it. But yeah, you mentioned this. You were like the big one. The reason I call this the big one is because it was the only track off this album to hit number one on the Billboard Hot 100. Not to mention, it was in the top 100 of the Rolling Stone 500 greatest songs of all time in its initial list in 2003. Not to mention, it was a top 10 track in VH1's top 100 songs of the 80s. All that to say, I also do not have this in my top three. It's a solid track. I like it, but it's not to me. To me, it's always been somewhat overrated, in my honest opinion. Like, it's a good track. It deserves to be a number one hit, but not have this critical thing of like, oh, this is one of the greatest Prince tracks of all time. It's good. It's good, but it compared to some of the other songs on this album, it's fine.
One thing that I will say though, like with this not being one of your favorite songs off the record, I have a sneaking suspicion what 2 and 3 are gonna be. But I mean, we'll get to it when we get to it. Obviously, one cliff note that I do want to add here. We talked about Prince and the Revolution being like the producers off the record here, and obviously Prince was the producer in the studio when the song was being recorded, and he was the one who was just like, I want it without bass. So like obviously I know that this was Prince being like he was the producer that I was alluding to earlier. So just I wanted to throw that note in there. If it is okay with you, we can move on over to finding out why Prince would die for you.
It is perfectly okay with me. I Would Die For You, yet another big hit off this record. I think it landed in the top 10 at number 8 on the Hot 100. And I'm just going to come out and say it. This track is awesome. It just the instrumentation on this song does not have many rivals in the synth pop landscape. Like, it just feels like the piano that's doing the major work here on top, mixing with those glissandos of synth where it goes like it just feels so majestic whenever you hear it. And even though I know Prince did well taking out the bass on the last track, I'm kind of glad it's back on this one because it does add that little bit of soaring seamlessness to this track as far as an instrumental is concerned. And the way that Prince, as you mentioned before, Ryan, sort of interplays with the music as it is, just works so well. Like, obviously, he is producing his own stuff, and he is very intricate with his own stuff. That's why it sounds so well here. And basically, this song lyrically is about how this feels like Prince trying to sort of muddy up the Messiah complex that most guys have whenever they're in relationships. Like, he starts out by saying, I'm not your lover, I'm not your friend, I'm something that you'll never comprehend. Like, he's just saying, listen, you don't have to know who I am. I just want to be there for you and worship you and adore you in everything that you do. So, yeah, it's a very weird complex to discuss there. It's not very deep, though, I will say, and that is what, if there's any wrong thing about this track or anything that could be improved upon, it's that. Like, it's very much the complexity of dealing with the ambiguity of your partner, but at a very surface level. But that's a minor nitpick. The key part about this song is that it just sounds great. The drums sound great. The bass sounds great. The keyboard sounds great. The piano sounds great. The synths sound great. Prince himself sounds great, particularly on that bridge where he's doing the little things like the wow and the chicka chicka chicka. Like, he's just like having fun singing on this track, and you can hear it in the vocals. This was the one that, if not for Let's Go Crazy, easily would have been my top track. But facts are facts. Let's Go Crazy is a more dominant version of the Minneapolis sound than this. This is just an amazing synth pop track, though. And yeah, I got it number 2.
I kind of penciled that in as soon as you were starting to like, gush about it, man. So like, yeah, I would agree with you. This song, well, I mean, I agree with you in the sense that this song is really, really good. I feel like maybe I wanted just it a little more from it in terms of like maybe considering it for like a top track contention spot, but it's still a good time nonetheless. A couple of the things that I want to touch upon that you laid down in your thoughts and opinions about the track. So I'm gonna start with the whole like Messiah complex that you alluded to. So, fun fact about Prince, despite, being him being a sex-positive pop culture figure, did you know he was actually a conservative Christian?
I didn't, but I could see it.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I thought that was actually kind of fun, and, like, uh, later on in his life, he actually became a Jehovah Witness, so, that's fun to know. So, oh man, the more you learn about the world, man, it's fun.
Right.
So, yeah, just it's interesting for me. And, like you kind of did touch upon this pretty well. Like a lot of people, like, and including Prince, has highlighted this fact that with this song here, he was literally just saying, "I'm literally." Like gonna save this person. I'm here to like die for them. Like he was really embodying that Messiah complex. But for me, like I'm more in line with you, with him just being like, hey, no, I'm here to be here for you and your support, and I just want to be with you, and I want to just like help you with your life. Like I'm more of that mindset because the other mindset is a little weird, to be honest with you. But I digress. So a couple of the things I do want to highlight here, other than like his Messiah complex, just the chorus here. It's so simple, but it's executed so well, and once again, the Ryan Kern's musical kink is found here, where the vocals are lining up with their instrumentation, specifically with the synths and the chorus. Like I do like that, and just the rapid like synth lines that you alluded to that you can find throughout this track here. Like they are super solid. I do like that. It does create an excellent texture. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have too much else to say about "I Would Die for You," other than like the song basically segues right into the next track, which is "Baby I'm a Star." So yeah, not a top track for me, but I respect the song, and I respect you putting it in your second favorite spot.
Yeah, again, right up until my final listen, I had it at number 1 because it's one of those songs where it's the second you hear that first note, you're just like, okay, we're in for a good time. And any song that can pull that off is obviously going to be a top track for me. But you are right. It does seeg right into the next track very seamlessly, so much so that a lot of radio stations back in the day would play these songs back to back just to keep that momentum going. And that track is Baby I'm a Star, the penultimate track off of Purple Rain. And Ryan, I'll let you kick this one off.
So, dear listener out there, one thing that you might have noticed about your Hey Listen to This scorecards, one, we only have 2 tracks left, like Matt alluded to. He's yet given the crown to his third favorite track, and myself, I've not given the golden crown to any of the tracks throughout this record. So, will Baby I'm a Star or Purple Rain land in either one of those spots? Well, let's find out. So, for me, Baby I'm a Star, it is absolutely a fun time in the track here. Like, the energy from this track here is absolutely infectious. Like, I've not listened to a lot of James Brown, but this might be sacrilegious. I've listened to like Bruno Mars, who takes a lot of inspiration from James Brown. And here I can really see where Prince was getting like the funk inspiration in James Brown, because he's really just riding the energy of the song. And the instrumentation here is doing a great job driving such a focused groove. Like, everything's so tight. The drums and the keys here are doing a fantastic job jamming throughout the verses. I was particularly taken back by them. And I would say, honestly, in terms of Prince's vocals, and like his vocal performance throughout the whole album, here I think it's like I'm gonna give him the most flowers I can give in terms of his vocals here, because like I feel like here this is his peak performance, because just how much he's really embodying the feeling of like, oh yeah, baby, I'm a star, like look at me now, and everything like that. So yeah, I was really taken back by that, and also the collective harmonies that you hear from the backing band are really tight. I was enjoying that, and also the jam sessions that are found in the back half of the track are solid, and the repetition of the little synth lines throughout the back half of the track are fun. Lyrically here, not much to write home about. This is pretty much a victory lap for Prince as he achieves like supernova stardom status. Basically, well, it's funny that Prince sequenced this soundtrack in the way that he did, because if I'm not mistaken, the following track, Purple Rain, actually comes before, and this the Baby I'm a Star is like the last song off the album. So yeah, that's fun. Anyway, so yeah, so like I alluded to, like this is pretty much Prince taking a victory lap, and like, hey, look at me, I'm hot shit, and rightfully so. The song comes across very well. Like you also hear, you get more backmasking, and if I had to be honest with you, I don't feel like it. The track didn't need any backmasking, and here, like I get why he might have put it in there because it was very much of the time, but it's like the song could have just stood on its own. It would have been just as effective, if not more effective. So yeah, it's not my favorite song off the whole album though.
I was wondering, because I will say, the way you started this, I thought maybe, just maybe, he's gonna pull this card and say this is his favorite, but it is not your favorite. Before we get into what is your favorite, I will give my thoughts on Baby I'm a Star. And first of all, it does a great job of keeping up the momentum from I Would Die For You, just for that rhythmic pulsing drum that kicks the track off with the vocals that are echoing it quite well. And then, like you say, you get Prince basically saying, hey baby, I'm a star, and even though I may not have all the money in the world, I have all the power in the world because I'm a star. And like you say, this feels very victory lappy compared to all the other songs we've heard so far, and this is just establishing himself as, hey, I'm here, I'm proud, get used to it. And like you say, instrumentally it sounds great. The one thing I did notice, I'm surprised you didn't touch on, towards like the back half, is the way that the track seems to stop, and you get Prince sort of like giggling a little bit, like, all the track's over. And I will say, it only took until like the third time for me to really pick up on it, is how it feels like the track's at an end, and then picks right back up, goes on for another 30 seconds, stops again, and then picks right back up. Like, that's another one where I was like, this is Ryan coded. This is so Ryan coded right now. But that being said, lyrically, it's pretty surface level as far as what it's saying it is. It's another one of those where, even though the lyrics aren't bad, you kind of get the idea of what the song's about right in the title of the track. It's a great track, and I'm glad it does, again, piggyback I Would Die For You in that regard. But no, it's not my top three either, because it's in the good song bucket, but it just didn't do quite enough for me to elevate itself to that. I would say it's that second tier of songs, along with When Doves Cry, Darling Nikki, and Take Me With You. So that's the good song bucket for this album.
So, yeah, man, I was well. I mean, I kind of figured like the next track here was gonna land in a top spot for you, but I honestly thought "Baby I'm a Star" was gonna do it for you in terms of landing in that's one of those top spots. So yeah, I'm glad that though I think we're basically in agreement. Like it's a good song, it's definitely a good time, but needless to say, it does not stand up to the title track off the whole record, that being Purple Rain. Matthew, if you're ready, let's close this review out with the title track.
Yes, it is time to complete our top threes, and I will start. This is my third favorite song on the album, and it's kind of hard to explain why, because this track definitely sounds a lot different than everything else that precedes it, maybe with the exception of The Beautiful Ones, because here we have another slow power ballad, but man, what a power ballad this is. Like, from what I've read in the past, this song was inspired by Prince trying to write a Bob Seger type ballad, whether he was talking about like night moves or more probably the case of We've Got Tonight. And what's funny is it really doesn't sound like Bob Seger until several choruses in, like the second or third chorus, when the harmonies show up. For the first part of it, it's just Prince singing along to this very smooth, floaty, just well executed backing track. You get the drums being very powerful, but you get the synths just sort of creating this ambient texture of. I mean, I'll just tell you what I wrote down is that this is his big rock ballad, and it sounds as purple as it can. I don't know why I say that, but anytime you hear that, you just envision him standing on the stage singing this with his guitar in his hand, ready to come off, as emotional as he wants to be. And it sounds so good. I mean, lyrically, it's not super deep. Like, you get these flashes of something similar as The Beautiful Ones, but a lot more pronounced, as far as Prince wondering, where things have gone and why this relationship that he's dealing with has left him standing in the purple rain. But that chorus, the hooks, um, just it sounds so good, and especially when the harmonies show up, and it just builds and builds and builds, to the point where you're just like, man, this is just a great pop tune. And also, by the way, in case I haven't mentioned it already, Prince is really good at guitar, and the guitar work on this track is just smoldering. Like, from the small wisps at the start of it to the solo at the end of it, where he's not like going crazy, but it's very similar in a sense, not technically wise or pronounced wise, but spiritually similar to Pink Floyd's Comfortably Numb, where he's not trying to flash chops as much as play along with the music and put the guitar at the forefront of it. I thought that was really good. If I have one nitpick about this track, and it's a very small one, is that much like When Doves Cry, it tends to overstay its welcome just a titch. But I'll forgive it on this track because this, after all, is a movie soundtrack. And to me, the last 2 minutes sound like the end credits to the end credits, because this feels like the end of the movie. And you could just envision the credits popping up whenever the band stops playing, as far as any type of beat, where it's just sort of floating in the atmosphere, and you could just see like words just starting to pop out of thin air. It's just like, oh, that's who the director was. Cool. So yeah, I'm not gonna fault the outro for overstaying its welcome too much, because it's again, the end of the album, and It's Prince, so he can do whatever he wants. We're not going to stop him. We never have stopped him. So yeah, Purple Rain, third favorite track for me. Great way to end this album.
So I'm gonna start with the comment that you made about like the only downside about the track is it does overstay its welcome, and I'm right there with you. Like that's the only thing I have against this track, and I didn't even really look at this track through the lens of it being a song with that's supposed to soundtrack a movie and almost like an end credits thing. Even though this song here again, I've never seen Purple Rain, the movie. Maybe I should see it one day. I don't know. I think that's a future Ryan journey, but as in terms of a present Ryan journey, um, yeah, from a pure sonic standpoint, yeah, I agree with you that the end of Purple Rain itself, it kind of drags just a hair, but dude, this song did a number on me whenever I was doing my multiple listens through of it, especially on the first listen through, in terms of proper note taking. And just coming out of the gate, like my first big note here is it's such a smooth song. I really love how Prince was able to record the vocals in there and how just big the song sounds. Like you alluded to the fact that he was looking to go for like a big ballad here, and he executes it to perfection here. And like a couple of the other instrumentation things I want to highlight, because you did a good job talking about like Prince's guitar playing. Like it does act as a nice grounding sensation throughout the track here, and like the guitar solo, like you alluded to, is just really good. But I was a fan of the keys and the strings coming in at spots. Earlier on in the track, I felt like that was adding up really nice texture. But dude, like the chorus here, like you think about it from like the the standpoint of it just being like Prince saying purple rain, and there's more to it than that, but like just that feeling that you get, it's such a refreshing feeling. Like it's almost like a gospel kind of feeling, and I absolutely love that, man. I'm sinking my teeth into it 10 times out of 10. And like speaking about like sinking into a feeling, like the back half of this track for me, it was such a treat for me to listen to. I just absolutely loved the vibes that were coming off of it. Like dude, like I literally thought like listening to it was like being in said Purple Rain. Like you were just, you were getting baptized, and rain was coming down, and you were being forgiven of everything, and everything was gonna be okay at the end of the day. It was almost like a spiritual moment for me, and it really did a number for me. And yeah, so outside of the instrumentation, another layer to this track here that really made me appreciate it was the lyrics. And like here, lyrically, the verses were written to directly address different people from the point of view of the kid in the movie Purple Rain. And for those of you who aren't familiar who the kid is in Purple Rain, it's Prince himself. So, and he's addressing like feelings that he can't express to different people throughout the movie. So like the first verse is about his father, the second verse is about his girlfriend, and the third verse is actually about his bandmates, specifically Wendy and Lisa. And one thing I want to do highlight about like the verses themselves is in the second verse when he's addressing his girlfriend, because you think about songs earlier on in the record, the Beautiful Ones, where he's talking about trying to steal and woo somebody away from like another significant other. Like one thing I do want to highlight in the second verse of Purple Rain itself is Prince said, "Baby, I never could steal you from another." So he's admitting to himself that, hey, yeah, I effed up And like, there's so many other, like, examples in the verses. Like, is when he's talking about when he's talking to his dad, he's saying like, hey, I never meant to cause you any sorrow, I never meant to cause you any pain. And like, that's such a refreshing feeling, being like, hey, these weren't my intentions, and I'm sorry for that. And it's such an honest expression of that. And I'm absolutely a fan of that lyric writing there. One other thing I do want to highlight about the lyric writing within Purple Rain is the concept of Purple Rain itself. Now, there's a couple different meanings that the band has like come out and said. Prince himself said the concept of Purple Rain does pertain to the end of the world and being with the one you love and letting faith/God guide you through it. And in addition to that, bandmate Lisa shared that the meaning of Purple Rain is like it's supposed to be like a new beginning. Purple, the sky at dawn, and rain, the cleansing factor. And I just, in my head, I want to believe Prince more because he was the one who wrote the song. But like my ultimate walk away from Purple Rain in terms of like what I'm taking it to mean as like just hey, just forgiveness and just being okay with life. And like the combination of that and the fact of how awesome the instrumentation sounds at the end, where it's just we no longer get the verses, we no longer get words, we just get the feeling. It's absolute musical nirvana for me. So yeah, it might be pretty basic of me to say Purple Rain is my favorite song, but I can't lie to myself. I've agreed to never lie to myself in the year of 2025, and just in life in general. So yeah, Purple Rain takes the crown, my dude.
Bad respect. This song is great. And you're right. It definitely does have that spiritual feeling because just how grandiose everything is produced. Not like overproduced, but just how big everything sounds, like you mentioned. Like he made it big. Like he made the harmonies big. He made the ending guitar solo big. He wanted this to be a big statement, and it worked because this is, again, even though I know When Does Cry hit #1 and he's had some other big hits like Little Red Corvette, I would say pretty solidly this is his signature song, or at the very least up there. Like this is just a great, great song to identify yourself with because, man, it is something else. But with that being said, for those of you playing at home, scorecards are filled out, 9 tracks up, 9 tracks down, and 3 words left to say.
We did it.
We did it, man. We purified ourselves in the waters of Lake Minnetonka, headed up to hear that Minneapolis sound, and got doused in the purple rain of Prince and the Revolution. Man, what a well, I know you say this often, but what a review, man.
Yeah, absolutely. It was absolutely a pleasure diving into a record that I own on vinyl, and I can now have a little bit more of a relationship towards. So, if you don't mind, I'm going to go first with my overall ratings and my thoughts about the record.
Go for it.
So, for me, the album is a fantastic album through and through. Like, you get a ton of variety throughout the track listing here. Like, for an album that is a soundtrack, it's pretty much, like, it's a very, like, even if you were to take away the context of said movie, just have this be an album within its own right, it's still a fantastic album through and through. You get a lot of variety, great performances found throughout, and the range that I really was taken back from, like, yeah, I know I'm literally going to name my top tracks here, but like you get like the range within those top tracks of my review, like they run the gamut. You get like Darlin' Nikki to Let's Go Crazy to Purple Rain, like many different sides of the band, and like all effective performances, all executed really well. Yeah, I mean, I did have my hiccup with the Beautiful Ones. It was a bit of a drag for me at certain points. It was honestly just a mixed bag. But, like, I'm not going to have that hold back the album's rating so much for me. So in terms of an overall rating for me, though, Matt, consider your mission accomplished. I'm not giving this album a 7 out of 10. I'm bumping it up 2 points higher than that. 2 full points, to be perfectly honest. And I'm going to give Purple Rain by Prince and the Revolution a solid 9 out of 10.
At last, the streak is broken. We have a good album that I have picked. Not that the other ones were bad, but, you know. My thoughts on Purple Rain. To me, this whole album is just amazing to listen to because there are few albums that can so easily pinpoint a moment in history for music. You get albums like Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band or Dark Side of the Moon or Nevermind My Nirvana. Tracks where you just think that is a soundtrack of the era. And it's ironic that this is a movie soundtrack because this also feels more like a life soundtrack for Prince, where he is just soundtracking people's lives because of how big this album was, and for good reason. Let's Go Crazy, Purple Rain, I Would Die For You, great songs, big hits. When Doves Cry, good song, big hit. And really throughout the entirety of this album, you get, strong lyrical performances, really strong instrumental performances, and Prince just front to back proving the kind of talent that he has and the kind of vision that he has for his kind of music, putting the Minneapolis sound on the map. Now, much like you, Ryan, I had my qualms as well. I thought The Beautiful Ones was kind of okay, and I didn't think Computer Blue was finished, which turns out you were right, it's not. Those were a couple of qualms for me that kept it from ultimate glory, but as far as an overall rating, I am right there with you. I, too, am going to give this one a 9 out of 10.
So, yeah, man, it makes the overall rating pretty easy because my 9 and your 9 average out to be a solid 9 out of 10 because
math
works for everyone, even when it's as simple as apple pie, man.
That streak is still going on, by the way. I think that's the third album in a row where we have had the same rating that I have picked an album for, which I'm okay with that streak because that's just kind of funny.
Yeah, that is kind of funny. I did make a mental note of that as well. So for me, my next album recommendation, it was a little hard because, like I alluded to at the start of the review, I never listened to another Prince album other than Purple Rain, and so therefore by default, I really can't, I mean, I guess I don't follow the same rules as you when it comes to the next album recommendations. Sometimes I listen to an album, just to say, hey, yeah, I agree with this here. But, needless to say, the next album recommendation that I'm going to give, and after thinking about it for a while, thinking about, artists in the mainstream that kind of have been inspired by Prince, and, albums that they have out that have, big iconic songs, really big ballads, and just, the overall, kind of blending, pop and, funk, in, some sense, maybe not 100%. I only thought about one album specifically, and that album is by The Weeknd, and said album is indeed After Hours. So yeah, After Hours by The Weeknd is going to be my next album recommendation. Big song off of that was Blinding Lights, and one of the comparables that I took from that album, comparing it to something that maybe Prince inspired, was Save Your Tears, a big, fun, ballad that Prince did, that The Weeknd did. So yeah, that's my next album recommendation, After Hours by The Weeknd.
And for me, I can't really recommend a Prince album either because I don't know if I've listened to any of the other ones in full. Maybe 1999, but that was so long ago I can't even do so. However, my selection will be very easy. I alluded to it earlier. It's another titan of 80s R&B and 80s pop. It also has 9 tracks, and it also has sold 1 billion copies. maybe not literally, but possibly literally, and that is Michael Jackson's Thriller. Much like Purple Rain, a lot of big hits and a lot of experimental stuff, like Billie Jean and Beat It, with much more typical R&B like Pretty Young Thing and Want to Be Starting Something, and I'll Throw the Girl Is Mine in there, his duet with Paul McCartney. So yeah, and not to mention too, considering the long since debate of Michael Jackson versus Prince, it is a good way to compare the two styles and two outputs and have you judge for yourself. So my next recommended album is Thriller by Michael Jackson, based off of Purple Rain by Prince. So, dear listener, if you have not listened to either the Weeknd album or the Michael Jackson album, those are our next recommendations based off of Purple Rain, which we both, as alluded to earlier, gave a 9 out of 10. Now, there is one final piece of business we need to get to before we kick this review into bed. And we are on, I want to say, chapter 5 of the miniseries you're going on with right now, Ryan?
Yeah, I do believe so. Dear listener out there, feel free to fact check me. Fact check me and Matt with that claim there, but I digress. So, Matt, the next journey that we're gonna take ourselves upon is I'll give you like some. I'm gonna lay the groundwork here a little bit, and then I'm gonna have you pick a location that we're gonna go to for our next review. So, the year that we're gonna travel to next is another important year for music, and that year is gonna be 1977. And a lot of big albums were released throughout that year. You get Rumors by Fleetwood Mac. Spoiler alert: that album's not up for contention here. So,
oh darn.
Yeah. So I feel like it would be fun if we take a look at the punk rock scene at the time that was occurring in 1977. And there are two albums that I'm going to put up for contention that were released from groups in that year. And the way I'm going to have you choose, like I alluded to, is based on location. So, Matt, are we going to go to New York or London for our next review?
Boy. You know what? I know it's been a few weeks since we've been to London, but I'm still okay with not going back there just yet. I'll take New York.
I think you're gonna be happy, man, because I at the end of the Slint review, I said, man, a couple of depressing albums that I've picked coming out of my camp here with Closer by Joy Division and Spiderland by Slint, and I promised that I was gonna make it up to you. So, dear Matthew, our next album that we're going to review is going to be a band by the name of Television, and the album that we're going to be reviewing from them is Marquee Moon.
Let's go! Yeah, I thought you were going to pull the Ramones on me, but this is better.
Yeah. Well, when I saw that this album was released in the year, and they were prominent in the New York scene at the time, I knew that you were familiar with this album, and I listened to it a handful of times. So I'm like, it's an easy slam dunk pick for me. So yeah, dear listener out there, if you've never listened to Marquee Moon by Television, make sure that you listen to it before next week's review. That way, you can have opinions about the record, and then you can have opinions about the opinions that me and Matt are going to bring to the table. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up this review, man. It was a pretty good review. Anything else to say about it before we kick it into bed?
No, I think we did a good job dissertating the greatness that is Purple Rain. And I am super excited to be talking about Marquee Moon next week. I don't think I have anything else to say except let's go crazy.